Hello and welcome to the Sunday Guardian podcast by Joyeeta Basu. Viewers, as you know, Donald Trump has just been sworn in as the President of the United States. Soon after swearing in, he has signed over 200 executive decisions. And among them, some are very significant, especially for the international community. I can think of right now two. One, he has withdrawn the US from the Paris Climate Agreement, and he has also withdrawn from the World Health Organization. To discuss all this and much more, India US relations also, of course, I have a very special guest with me, Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, who is currently president of India Habitat Center and also a best selling author. Welcome, Ambassador Mukherjee, to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, obvious question is that what made Trump withdraw from these two, and what does it imply, and what is going to be the effect of this on the rest of the world?
He withdrew for different reasons. Let's begin with climate change. He does not agree with the commitments which the United States has made, and he wants to go back to drilling for oil and shale oil. So that would not go down well with the commitments of the Biden administration, and therefore he has withdrawn because he wants a free hand. He wants to, as he said, make America great again, and one way of doing that is to flood the world market with oil, and that is not possible under the commitments of the organization. He withdrew from WHO. He was going to withdraw actually in the last 3 months of his first presidency, because he said that WHO mismanaged the pandemic, refused to have an investigation as to how COVID started, from which country, and was completely dominated by China. What is more interesting is that its present head, who was the head of WHO during the pandemic, is a Chinese, I can't call him a puppet, but propped up by China. And when his second re-election came, one would have presumed that the United States and the Western countries would have voted against him and would have changed him. But instead, they all voted in his favor, and so he got his second term. If I'm not mistaken, he's from Zimbabwe. So the issue here is that he withdrew from WHO because he also had an outstanding discussion and huge problems with the American contribution, which they have calculated that US is in arrears for millions of dollars. And he has said he will not pay those arrears and that they have been wrongly calculated. On the same argument, he may very well withdraw in a week or so from UNESCO. This is an organization which President Trump regards as left liberal. It is left liberal, actually. UNESCO is a very left liberal organization. It has the typical older American ideas about, for instance, migration, education, health, etc. It believes that the state should fund. I recall the difficulties that the Americans had when I was ambassador to UNESCO, even though it was an Obama administration and they were very much in support of UNESCO, but they had problems because, for instance, a simple thing, the American right does not believe that heritage should be preserved through government funding. They believe that heritage is a market item. So if the Taj Mahal is sinking, we should put it in the global market and say Taj Mahal is for sale. We can't manage it. Come, private sector, Elon Musk, give your money, help us to save Taj Mahal. If nobody comes and the Taj Mahal is destroyed, it's not a problem for President Trump because he says it's a market issue. On this, the Americans had huge problems, both with the World Heritage Convention and with the Convention on Intangible Heritage, because there again, intangible heritage is based, for instance, in India, on oral traditions which come down millennia, 5,000 years. And therefore, these oral traditions must be preserved for the sake of the country's history. But because we have very different ideas from President Trump about preserving heritage, we have preserved it. But there are other poorer African countries that need international aid and assistance to preserve their centuries-old heritage, and President Trump and his MAGA group would never permit it. So I'm not an astrologer, but I think very soon, Joyeeta, you will see another announcement signed by him that he's withdrawing from UNESCO. That is what UNESCO also expects, that he will withdraw.
So, what is going to be the impact, especially the climate change and WHO also, in terms of to the rest of the world?
We must remember that this is President Trump's second term. He has only 4 years. There is a limit to the amount of havoc he can create in 4 years. In any case, at the end of his third year, he will be a so called lame duck because people know that he cannot come back again. So they will be jostling for position, both Republicans and Democrats. So whatever havoc he's going to create, multilaterally or domestically, is actually limited to about 3 years. After that, we'll see what happens.
No, but it's also a fact that when you look back at President Biden's term also, I mean, there has been a lot of unhappiness. Obviously, there was severe unhappiness with him.
Absolutely.
The reason why Trump won such a landslide.
Yes.
So, how do you think, do you see Trump being able to course correct America's direction in the next 3 years or 4 years that he
Yes, I
is?
do. Because the
Okay.
point is that unlike the predictions made by the Democrats, Trump won the popular vote and the Electoral College
Yes.
by a huge majority. And his vice president comes from the very depressed Midwest and has very poignantly described his upbringing, the fact that his father was a drug addict, his grandmother brought him up. His grandmother told him that if ever I see you with alcohol or drugs, I'll kill you. It's a very interesting childhood, and it actually demonstrates America's desire that the American dream should be first for Americans and not for immigrants. That is the fundamental issue. It goes those who are left liberals or who are opposed to Trump's policies, they believe in the inscription which is there at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, which says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore." That means to say that the American dream when America was founded was based on immigrants, because the first immigrants killed off all the indigenous people. The same thing was done in Canada and in Australia. So those poor people who were the original inhabitants of the United States were killed off. And United States and its greatness, according to these people, is based on what is written at the base of the Statue of Liberty, which is the first thing you see when you touch down in New York City. You see the Statue of Liberty in all its beauty. You may not know what is written at the bottom, that this is a country based on immigration. Now the Americans say that these immigrants have come, they've taken away our jobs, and very soon America will no longer be a white society. The Europeans have the same problem. Its color of its citizens are moving rapidly from black to brown and yellow. That is to say, Indians and Chinese. Very few black people actually, and very few Arabs. Basically Indians and Chinese. And so they are faced with the prospect that a once white society is changing its color. At the same time, the American dream is being shared by too many non-white people. And that's why his massive victory shows that United States people, the majority, don't want to stick anymore to those left liberal ideals which was responsible in the first instance for the rise of America, for the fact that those who supported slavery fought the Civil War and lost. And it was a bitterly fought civil war. Let's not forget that Michelle Obama is a direct descendant of slaves from the deep south of the United States. So United States has a very checkered history. But this United States is a highly polarized United States. There will be a bitter fight over every single such reform that he is rolling out. But because he has a conservative Supreme Court, it is highly likely that he will be able to succeed at least in 80% of what he wants to do. And once he does that, America is changed forever.
So, since you're talking about immigration, the obvious question is you must have, seen the kind of controversy that started over this H1B, H1AB visa and Indian immigration. It seems that increasingly it is going to be difficult for even Indians to legally move to that country. So, what do you think about this whole controversy?
I don't think it's a controversy at all. First of all, we are now moving towards Viksit Bharat. There is no longer any need for so many Indians to go to United States at all. That's the India and India's people should change their approach that we are going to help in making America great again. They should think we must work to make India great again because our engineering colleges, our medical colleges provide the best education, better than many American colleges, but the best then immigrate to United States. So if it is going to result in a change of thinking on the part of young people that let's see what we can do for India and let's make India great, I think it's a very welcome idea. As far as H1B visa is concerned, it is highly unlikely that he will be able to change it beyond a point because he has all these uh, trillionaires who came for his inaugural, and they all depend on highly specialized Indians for all their industries, and that includes Elon Musk. So I don't think that beyond a point the H1B visa um, will be restricted for Indians. What will happen is that 18,000 Indians, illegal Indians, have been targeted for immediate deportation. In that, as I said on television yesterday, we have to make sure that there are no Pakistanis, no Bangladeshis, and no Nepalese, and no Sri Lankans there. When I was ambassador to Netherlands, I remembered the Dutch Minister of Immigration asking me to meet him for lunch, which I later regretted because the Dutch are famously parsimonious when they offer hospitality to foreigners. But he gave me a list of 400 illegal Indians in Netherlands. So I told him, we are a country of 1.3 billion people. If only 300 have come to your country, it means they are not going to stay here. They are en route for better horizons. He said, are you sure? I said, why should an Indian want to come here? It's cold, it's humid. You guys
Language
don't have a
problem.
good cuisine. You don't speak English. Why on earth should they want to come here? And in any case, I am going to send my chief consular officer, who is a Punjabi born and bred in Amritsar. He is going to talk to these guys and I will tell you how many are from Pakistan, Punjab, and how many are from India. He said, done. Is it so simple? I said, yes, they speak with a different accent. Like Bengalis from East Bengal, where I come from, speak Bengali with a different accent from Bengalis from West Bengal. I can spot them immediately. Who is an illegal Bangladeshi? If they call me, I would tell you immediately who is an illegal Bangladeshi. So, when we did the investigation, we found that 70% of those people were all Pakistanis who had come here, come to Netherlands to cook, clean, etc., make some money and then move to UK. They were also not interested. The Pakistanis also were not interested. They wanted to move to UK, and from UK they would move to US. So my concept is we can accept out of the 18,000 those who are genuine Indians. For that, we would have to do a search because I understand most of them are from Punjab and Gujarat. From the local authorities, get verification and take them. Because otherwise, we stand at risk of having jihadi Pakistanis, jihadi Bangladeshis, and NEPs coming into our country and claiming Indian citizenship. That is not something that is acceptable.
Okay, before we move to the last segment discussing India-US relations, I have a quick question in terms of do you anticipate a rise in racism against Indians based in the US or people who are traveling there?
It's already there.
Is it
You
going
must
to?
have seen the film many years ago, My Name is Khan. That was Islamophobia. Now there are attacks on Sikhs, there are attacks on Hindu temples. United States has an ugly side to it. Those who immigrate are well aware of it, which is why the rich Asians, the Indians and the Chinese, always live in white neighborhoods. If you go to New York City, you would find, or Washington for that matter, I've spent 3 years in the United States. I was working for the UN, for the Permanent Mission of India to the UN. You will find that those who make money and are prosperous, they move to white neighborhoods where they feel they are more safe. They send their children to the best schools where white kids go. That's why when those kids come out and they get highly paid jobs, they are totally incapable of dealing with racism because they were never brought up in black neighborhoods. They were never brought up in Hispanic neighborhoods. And the attacks on Chinese and Indians are usually by blacks and Hispanics, not white Americans. This is well known because the Hispanics and the blacks feel that as it is, the American dream has been stolen by China and India. In any case, their education is very, very poor. Many of them come out of high school without knowing even how to sign their own name. They don't know any maths. They can't do anything except with a calculator. So they get the lowest paid jobs. If they are on food aid, they are given very bad food, which results in obesity and sugar. So you can't call it a welfare state from that perspective, as you and I understand a welfare state in Europe, for instance. And therefore, the greatest amount of racism, and please go back to where you came from, actually comes from Hispanics and black people. But those who are attacking temples, that's a different category. Those are white people, very poor white people coming from regions where Vance came from. They have their racism is mixed with envy for the prosperity of the Indians and the Chinese, and their inability to understand that if United States is a country of equal opportunities for all, these people have made their billions rightfully through the same market where America wants to put everything on sale, including heritage. They were put on sale, they were picked up, and they made their billions. It's as simple as that. So please don't expect less of racism just because we have a few Indians in Trump's inner circle. The racism doesn't come from there. The racism comes from envy, as far as whites are concerned. The racism comes from pure race, as far as blacks and Hispanics are concerned. So that's a double or a triple whammy as far as Indian immigrants are concerned.
So when we are looking at India-US relations, now that you talked about the attacks on Indian temples, and the Khalistanis are also running amok in places like Canada, and Biden was seen to be doing nothing, and then there is this problem of deep state. It is said to an extent perhaps the India-US relations did get derailed during Biden's time, in spite of the fact that Biden was the first president to allow India access to critical technology, that ISET and all. There were certain glitches towards the end perhaps, and the constant weaponization of what is known as foreign policy determined by values, values-based foreign policy. Do you see that changing, and how do you see India-US relations developing during Trump's time?
Well, you referred to Biden. So there was a curious dichotomy in the Biden administration, because at the very top, the India-US relationship improved under Biden, because Biden was determined to keep it that way. But Biden was not able to control the American deep state, which has the same transactional approach to foreign policy as Trump has. Therefore, the deep state orchestrated regime change in Bangladesh without understanding its strategic implications for India. They did not realize that the creation of a Rakhine state on the India-Myanmar border, it poses a real threat to India's territorial integrity, to the Siliguri corridor, to India's northeast, and to Assam and West Bengal. Now, I would ask you the legitimate question, Joyeeta, is that nice behavior from our closest strategic partner? No. But why did it happen? It happened because the US president was not in control of his foreign policy. That is not going to happen under Trump. To that extent, we are very much better off with Trump, because Trump would not have, though he is a transactional man, he would not have this transactional approach as far as Bangladesh, etc., is concerned, because being a transactional man, he sees great potential in developing the India partnership. So he would be much more attuned to our core concerns, which was very clear from the fact that External Affairs Minister Jaishankar was given the front row in the inaugural, and the Japanese Foreign Minister and the Australian were given the third and fifth row respectively. That selection was done by Trump's inner office, the seating arrangement. So this, and after that we had the Quad meeting, but then only our foreign minister was asked to stay back for a bilateral with the new US Secretary of State. That again is a clear indication of President Trump's priorities as far as India is concerned. And he's also planning a state visit in April to India.
So the thing is that how does the China factor come into this? This is the last question.
The China factor we have to watch and wait, because the man who calls himself the president's best buddy, that's Elon Musk, has got billions invested in China, billions invested in the electric car, and has huge discomfort in a relationship which would affect naturally his investments. So he would put huge pressure on his best buddy to tone down his earlier speeches with regard to the threat that China poses. And everything also depends on how quickly he can bring the Ukraine conflict to an end. Because if he can bring the Ukraine conflict to an end, he can restore the balance of power which controlled China. Because otherwise, because of the Ukraine conflict, Putin and Russia, whether they admit it or not, have become China's junior partner. Once the Ukraine conflict ends, and if it ends, as has been said by his closest allies, that it will end with a ceasefire, freezing everyone where they are, with a demilitarized zone, so it will be very much like North and South Korea, which means that Putin will hang on to the huge chunks of Ukrainian territory, which were traditionally Russian territory and very foolishly given to Ukraine with the breakup of the Soviet Union based on the Minsk Accords, which the Europeans did not respect. So I think that if the Russian-China balance shifts back to Russia's favor and not China, China would be much more easier to deal with, not just for Trump but also for us, because their economy is in trouble. They no longer have the kind of money to throw around. Their Belt Road initiative is in trouble. And I think that if he is able to really be a transactional president, as he appears to be, he looks at everything from the perspective of profit and loss. I think he may calculate that there is much more to be gained from India than from China. But for that, we have to watch and wait and see.
So overall, you are optimistic about India-US relations in the time of Trump?
I have been optimistic about India-US relations even during the time of Biden. But I prayed very hard for Kamala Harris to lose, because if she had become president, the India-US relations would have been badly damaged, because she represents the same deep state which orchestrated the regime change in Bangladesh. So naturally, I am very, very supportive of President Trump. I am very comfortable with the ideas he has brought about. I recognize there are issues where he will tone down his rhetoric, because again, being a businessman, he first upgrades the rhetoric and then brings it down to make a deal, because he's a deal maker. Yeah. So to make a deal, you have to first talk tough to scare your opponent and then come to a deal. So we have to wait and see what kind of deal he comes to. But these are exciting times ahead, Joyeeta. Yeah. Thank you.
On that positive note, thank you, Ambassador Mukherjee, for being on the show. And thank you, viewers, for watching. Until the next time.